quite a while, but I don't tend to get to go to very many events because I travel with Joe, because really he's the superstar and I'm just the engine room that drives it. So he is Joe Foster powered by Julie, because he is of an age, he's older, and to travel alone, he did that for many, many years of his life, doesn't do it anymore. So we do it as a team. A lot of what we do is team. We are Team Foster. So, and it's, if any of you do work with your partner and you can get to work with your partner, I can, hand on heart, thoroughly recommend it. If you can make it work, it's a very nice life to have if you can work together. So, to give you a little bit of my background, and then I can tell you a little bit about the Reebok story, and then, as Morella says, if I have time, maybe a little bit about some of the coaching that I do, which is not strictly formal, it's more informal at the events that we travel to. But my history is, I have not been a part of Reebok. I met Joe just after he retired from daily life. So he started Reebok with his brother in 1958, and we'll do a bit of that history in a moment. But he stepped back from the corporate life, the daily corporate life, in 1990. Having built the brand from nothing with him and his brother to a $4 billion company when he stepped back. And a lot of that, and I'll give you a little bit of history of that, was women, of all things. Women drove Reebok from a $900 million business, so from a $9 million business to a $900 million business in 4 years, all powered by women, which was incredible. But so my background, I come from a logistics and administration background, and I met Joe 33 years ago when he had already stepped back from daily life at Reebok, and he had various small little operations in the UK, one of which was operating between the UK and the Canary Islands, which is actually where he lived at the time. He sort of stepped back from daily life and decided running around the planet, which he was doing at the time, was he needed a break from. It didn't last very long, I have to say, and he went off to live in the Canary Islands. One of the operations operated in the Canaries and the UK, and that became my full-time job. So I then worked between the UK and the Canary Islands, and we've been together ever since, and we've been married for 25 years. So that's basically my background. I'll give you a little bit of the history of Reebok and a little bit about the philosophy of how they actually built the brand, because I know most of you here will be either building a personal brand or a services brand or even a product brand. Who's got a product brand? Yes, I know you have. It's one of my best friends. You have a product. Oh yes, of course, you've got your vitamins, and was there another one? Another product brand? Nope. Okay, so who's got a service brand? Okay, and influence, we have some influencers, so that's personal brand. Who works on personal branding? Just in the corner. Hiding in the corner. Okay, so the brand is, there's many definitions of the brand. You're either product, service, or personal. Back in 1958, when Joe and his brother started their company, brand was unheard of. The word brand even didn't really have a place in sort of the corporate vocabulary. People just had a company, and the company offered a service, a product, or personal branding really wasn't. Influencer didn't exist. Influencing, it did exist, but not in the way we understand today. So my husband and his brother Jeff, they had to leave their family business. Their family business was a very well-established business called J.W. Foster and Sons, and Joe's grandfather, also Joseph William Foster, his grandfather at the age of 15 invented the track running spike. So all the track running spikes you see today all originated from Joe Foster's J.W. Foster company that he did when he was 15, and it was done by accident. It was an accidental invention, if you like. spikes were already being used in cricket boots, and his uncle repaired cricket boots, and he got the inspiration from there, put them in his running shoes, and he became a great success. We have just had the Paris Olympics, 2024. In 1924, exactly 100 years ago, the Olympics were also in Paris. And at those Olympics, J.W. Foster footwear was on the feet of Harold Abrahams, Eric Liddell, and they both won gold medals in J.W. Foster shoes. Those are the guys who are immortalised in the film Chariots of Fire, which most of you have seen. And Lord Burleigh, who was another athlete, also took part in the Chariots of Fire race. But those guys were the runners, and they all wore J.W. Foster shoes at that time. So there's a long history within the Foster family of making shoes. Joe and his brother left the family business. His father and his uncle, they took over from the grandfather, and unfortunately they didn't have the entrepreneurial spirit. They also were part of the war, and we think that maybe they just sort of got tired. There was no enthusiasm for growth. They were doing the same thing they'd been doing for 30 years, and so Joe and Jeff left and set up their own company, not with any thought of growing a global brand, not with any thought of world domination, nothing like that. They needed a job. It was as simple as that. So they went off, and that's basically how Reebok started. It didn't start off as Reebok, it started off as Mercury sports footwear. But one of the things that, like Mirella was saying, that I've just been doing some coaching on while we were away, we do these sort of impromptu breakout sessions within events, and was how you need to look after the history and protect whatever you're creating now. So it's great. Go forward, go forward, go forward. Build, build, build. But you need to look after what you've done behind you, because that is going to give you it down the road. It's going to give you your credibility. It's where you're going to build your community from, and it's where you're going to be able to build your identity from. Reebok now trade a lot on their history. They have a very valuable history, and it's really important that you not only look forward, but you need to look after your history. So the evolution of your brand logo, Reebok didn't start off looking like it looks today. It looks very different, and it's been through many iterations of font, simple things like that. You need to keep all that history. You need to archive it. Reebok was sold to Adidas in 2006. Adidas did Reebok no favours at all. They stripped it of all its assets, which is what they wanted. But they paid $4 billion for it. You can do what you want when you pay that kind of money. So what they did do, which is the Americans didn't, and one of the credits we can give to Adidas, is they created a professional archive for Reebok. Adidas had it from day one. The guy, Adi Dassler, he was very much into collecting history, collecting shoes, not just their own, other brands as well at the time. And Adidas's archive is, in the sports industry, second to none. It is superb, and they have it in a superb facility in Germany. And they've implemented the same thing into Reebok. So much so that now they have a specialised archive in Boston, in the headquarters, and the creatives can go and use that. So they can create new product, they can create new designs, they can create new messages, new communication with the community, with the customers, and they can use the history. And it's a very valuable thing to keep. So I would tell all of you, drive forward, grow your brands, but please keep an eye on what you've done before. Protect it, vocalize it, archive it. You don't need space, especially if you're a service-focused operation. You can put it on a cloud. It's not going to take any time. But make sure that when you move forward, when you take a next step, when you develop something new, don't forget what you did before, because it's part of your history, and it will help you with, if you say you want to exit. Most people these days, we want to build, we want to exit, and you can then show potential investors or potential customers for your exit where you've come from, what you've done before, the progression of your brand, the dedication, and they again would be able to use that history going forward to drive their business or carry on the business, but keep that history and make sure you look after it. So there we go. That's Mirella. What's she gone? Do you want anything else?
We have questions for you. Who wants to build a big brand? Or
Benny.
maybe not allowed. So what is the question?
I think more of a statement. I just think it's such an incredible story. I've actually seen your husband speak at another event, and just learning about the story and everything like that. And I think, obviously, we are aware that certain brands have their sort of like peak. Like I remember when Puma first came out and
Yep.
they got attached with Correspector, and they became the shoes where with Ivan Lendl and that, and then obviously going through the names and everything like that. How do you go about getting those sort of knowing which superstar, like Nike, Jordan, was going to actually...
That was a fluke.
but was it? You know, and that's the thing. Is it just pure luck? Do you go with someone and you think, okay, I really want to attach that name to my brand?
Yeah.
Like, how do you go about making sure that actually that's a great connection?
It's very different now to how it used to be. Influencing and influencers, brand influencers, are not new. It's Joe's grandfather knew how to use influencers, but the word wasn't there in those days. And now you have to pay people to use your product. Back then, you could just give it to them, and they would use it.
And they were grateful, probably.
And they were absolutely, because athletes were not professional. Athletes it was only really, in those days, it was only the upper class who could be an athlete, i.e. Lord Burleigh, because normal people were not athletes. But now it is really, we have a lot of instances of disasters when celebrities kind of, I think the first time that started was with Burberry and Kate Moss. And Kate Moss fell off her pedestal, and Burberry were paying her and numerous other brands and magazines huge amounts of money to promote their brands, and then and that was the first, I think, of incidents. So you've got to be very careful on aligning your brand with. You need to find that they've got the same values as your brand, and it's got to be within